Hello and welcome to another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations for New Comic Book Day. And you knew that it had to happen. It's kind of a lighter week this week.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that happens during the holidays, but they just kept cramming out titles during the holidays. So it's caught up, and we've got two shelves full of stuff, and there's plenty of good titles to go with. A lot of kind of ongoing titles that have been on the lists before. So let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah, so shocker, it's not like I haven't picked a bunch of this run before, but it's Detective Comics 1081, the start of the it's like a new arc within like the ongoing arc, because it's kind of been this whole like 3-act structure, and we're kind of entering Act 3 now. But for the down low, so previously Gotham's been taken over by the Ograms. Batman kind of like he's only nearly dead. How about that? Like he only nearly died.
Yep.
But he's been
not dead yet.
Yeah, he was whisked out of the city for like this ragtag group of his like allies and some enemies to like kind of like get him out of there. He's been taken to this desert that's like not really a desert. It's kind of like this like almost space between worlds where he has to like go through these trials to like find himself and like really kind of like reorder himself after being kind of deconstructed over the last couple arcs in the series. And it's just every time I bring this series up, it's weird. It's like it's always got different artists, I feel like, for every arc, but they're always just phenomenal. This one is I can never pronounce his name right. Let me just double check here. Ricardo Federici? Is that, do you think that's
that's how I would pronounce that.
Yeah, but
which
like
means it's probably wrong.
But his stuff is like always gorgeous. He just really brings this like really unsettling like quality to like a lot of the like creatures that kind of like pop up in this desert. There's this like freaky tree that is there that's just like haunting. Like if you've seen Shin Godzilla, the thing that happens at the end of that, it kind of reminded me of that.
Okay.
Yeah, which horrifying.
Sure.
Yeah, but also in between that, we also get this little like side story every couple pages back in Gotham. Renee Montoya, she's been kind of doing more stuff as the Question. She's kind of trying to figure out what's going on, and she's starting to notice that like people in Gotham are like slowly like losing their memory of things. Like they're acting. It's weird because like they've kind of like forgotten that like Batman existed, but they've still got like these muscle memories. Like criminals know to be like scared when they're out, but they're like, why are we scared?
Sure.
So she's trying to figure out what's going on with that. She's trying to figure out like what exactly the Ograms are like up to. What is their like actual plan? It's just a fun little juxtaposition between this like crazy like mythical like interdimensional adventure that Batman's on, and then the Question's like doing like this really like down in the streets like detective work, trying to figure out like what is actually like happening here. That's one of my favorite things about this run in general, is how much it spotlights some of the like characters that don't get to show up as much. Like you had a lot of Azrael in the last arc. You're like Question's been kind of like, she's been showing up here and there. I can't wait I know the 10-eyed man is going to show up again, which is not a sentence you normally think of being excited to hear, but like,
I'm very excited for the 10-eyed man to show up.
I love his creepy little fingers. I got eyes on him. It's great. But like, I don't know, everything Ram V puts out, I've been loving his detective run. We've had Rare Flavors on here a couple times.
Good, yep.
He's got a bunch of new stuff coming out this year. He's got a mech series. He's got like murder detective series coming out from Image. Like I absolutely love his stuff. This arc, even though we're nearing the end, because I think he said he's like his final issue is going to be like 1089. So yeah, but like we're kind of getting close to the end. He's really bringing it all home. One of my favorite underrated Batman villains shows up in this issue. Without getting to spoilers, he's
Condiment Man.
Oh god, that'd be great. But no, he. I love how both like him and Sardusky are like weirdly having these conversations with, like, we've talked about this before, like Morrison's run on Batman.
Yeah.
Just like picking up different threads from that and like doing their own thing with it. Like I love how they're both doing that. But no, if you're going to be reading any Batman title, read both. But definitely read Detective. It's like been phenomenal this entire time. Do we have the trade paperbacks for it? If we don't, we should. Yeah, definitely check it out on that if you don't. I can't speak of it highly enough. Speaking of things I can't speak highly enough of, and neither can you, over to you.
Yeah, so, I mean, we had a lot of discussion narrowing it down to what was going to be individual picks versus the consensus pick. And I went with Immortal Thor, and this is issue number 6. Al Ewing continues to just be amazing on this book. Not that it's a surprise to anybody, because the Immortal Thor run by Ewing, or Immortal Hulk run by Ewing was so great. And, it's kind of the... back to basics to an extent with the characters, but also doing some very modern storytelling techniques. So this one is Thor. So Thor and Loki are trying to figure out what's going on with these elder gods and Gaia and some sort of weird pact that they have. And Thor is the All-Father now and is trying to protect everybody, basically. So he feels like he's got to get out in front of this problem. And Loki has agreed to help him while telling him the whole time, my help is going to kill you. My help is not going to be help. I'm your enemy. So it's this contradiction. And they sit down by a fire for Loki to tell a tale, because Thor and Loki had an adventure when they were young. And it has importance. The details of that adventure are going to have importance in what's coming. But Thor, in order for Thor to be prepared for what's coming, he has to remember it more exactly than he currently is able to, because it happened millennia ago.
It's basically like the notion of, like, everyone has those memories that, like, they know, like, something along these lines happened because it's in there. But, like, at the same time, like, you're also pretty sure, like, a lot of the details are probably, like, either not true or half remembered or taken from another memory that you don't actually really remember. So, like, he needs to, like, get to the bottom and figure out, what are the exact series of events? Like, what can I learn from them?
When does a memory become more a memory of a memory than actually memory itself? And that's kind of what they're getting at here. So how do you do that? Well, you sit down with Loki in front of a fire out in the woods with a comic book. And read it. And the comic book is the memory, or it's not the memory, it's the viewing of the actual events. And so, Thor, now being the All-Father, looking back at him as a young, brash god, there's some things that are uncomfortable for him to see. But anyway, it has a very kind of fairy tale Hansel and Gretel-like kind of story, right? So the two of them are wandering out in the wilderness and come across something that's unusual. One of them is saying, this is a terrible idea. We do not want to go across this creepy bridge and into the dark woods. And the other is like, are you kidding? This is fate. This is an adventure. We've got to go do this. And interesting stuff happens, right? So it's just kind of it's a very fun, grim fairy tale kind of story.
And one of the things I like, though, is that there's, like, this kind of, like, slightly sinister undertone that they bring up, where it's just, like, how you do, like, interact with the memory, like, can then also, like, change it in a way, which is one thing if it's like, oh, you're, like, you realize you had a detail in your mind wrong this whole time, so then, like, you can kind of, like, correct yourself now. But this is then, like, they're also kind of, like, literally interacting with the memory, so, like, how might that affect things then?
Well, and so then somebody's manipulating something going on here, and it might be more than one party is manipulating stuff. And obviously, people are out to get Thor because, Thor's name is on the book, and so of course everybody's out to get Thor in this. But trying to figure out, there are strings being pulled and pieces being moved, and it's all happening behind the scenes, and you're not sure who can you trust, who can you not trust. I'm not even sure that we can trust Thor at this point, so it's really good. And then the reveal at the end was so cool. So yeah, I mean, this is a comic book about people reading comic books, like literally.
Kind of, sort of,
yeah. So it's fun. I really enjoyed it. Art was great. I really like the Thor stories that go back in time when, it's before Thor has come to Earth and met people and started kind of figuring stuff out, when he's just the brash young god who's willing to just run into anything because it's stupid. He's just he makes so many bad choices, but they make for great stories.
And with here though, it also has this like kind of like sad feel to it, where like Thor sees how he was, and like it almost feels like it's putting this like sense of doubt into him, just like, I was like this. How much better if I truly got it? I want to be better.
This is going to be a really weird recollection, but speaking of memory and how it changes over time, who wrote the story about Thor first coming to Earth, and like people are living in mud huts, and he meets that warrior. She's not a priestess. She's like a tribal leader or whatever. She was almost Red Sonja like, and that's kind of like the first human that he kind of falls in love with. I think we were maybe married or something, and then she died, and then he kind of was like, oh well, this is too much heartbreak. They don't live long enough. I can't do this again. Man, it was a good one. If you remember, leave it in the comments. But this was kind of reminiscent of that, but yeah, I do like the retrospective that is also added on this one. But yeah, this has been an amazing book. There's another one where if you haven't been reading it yet, did the first trade drop already, or is coming?
I think it's coming. I don't think it's dropped quite yet.
Okay. But. So be sure to sign up for that if you haven't been reading this. We've probably got some back issues, but there's no way that we go back to one.
I don't think so.
No, it's been too popular of a book. But speaking of valuing, let's get on to the consensus.
Yeah, so we've got Resurrection of Magneto #1, the latest in the Fall of X series of titles they've been doing for a while now. So this one, recap for you. There was Judgment Day a couple years ago, big brouhaha with the Eternals and the mutants and all that. Yeah. Magneto died, which even with the X-Men stuff up until that point had been too much of an issue because we had the resurrection protocols.
Right.
But Magneto and Storm, since they were living on Arakko, decided to get rid of their backups because that's just not how they do things there, and they wanted to actually show the people of Arakko that no, we get you. We understand how you live your life. We're not going to try and cheat death because we understand that's very insulting to you guys.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he's been actually for real dead for the first time. It's not every other time Magneto dies, we're just oh, it wasn't actually Magneto. He either actually lived or was a clone or whatever happened with Zorn. God knows. But
was that a couple of years ago?
Magneto dying?
Yeah.
Technically, it was 2022.
Wow.
I know,
holy
right?
Smokes.
It's weird. It doesn't
Time
feel
flies
like it.
when you're reading this many comic books a week.
Yeah. But, so Magneto's been dead, but unfortunately for him, his rest is going to get disturbed here because things have never been as bad for mutants as they are right now. And Storm's just we need someone like him here to help lead us and take charge because Xavier is dealing with way too much stuff right now to be of any kind of help.
Well,
or maybe not.
It turns out rest might not be the best way to describe where Magneto's an experience. And
so
right now.
What ensues is obviously he's dead, so Storm's got to go through this whole thing to try and find him, and it turns out to be a lot more complicated than she thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this, we were talking about this a bit beforehand, so this and kind of the whole main thread of this era, the Dominion Enigma, without getting too deep into who or what that is, was actually originally teased back in Ewing's Defenders Beyond. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how it's great that because you didn't read that and you still love this. I did, so I love seeing a lot of those threads getting pulled back into this. This is good it's the same thing with Ultimate Spider-Man, where it's so perfectly designed that if you read the stuff leading up to it, you're getting everything out of it. And if you didn't, you're still getting everything out of it because it's that good.
Well, and I think, traditionally, most comics have been pretty good at that type of thing where, if you picked up in a TV series in season 3 or 4 or whatever, it'd probably be pretty confusing. And the character development jumping in at that point would be hard. With comic books, they've had to tell stories that way because who's read every X-Men book? That's almost an impossibility.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, everyone can definitely, tell you there's a time they were reading something and they definitely felt like, I feel like I should have been reading something else before this kind of deal.
For sure.
But, with this here, just basically all I need to know is, Minio's dead. Storm's got to get him back. There's some weird ooey-wooey, beyond, the veil of space and time stuff going on. Which,
some of which ties into the greater Marvel architecture, I guess, of kind of the eternal beings. And I think I read enough X-Men Red that,
Yeah. But there, you get some, gorgeous fights out of here. The art is just stellar. There's a whole... when you end up in a realm where, everything is just symbol and thought, how powers kind of manifest there gets a little weird.
Yeah, it turns out lightning bolts are good symbols.
Yeah, it turns out lightning bolts are very good symbols to be associated with.
Yeah. Well, I love any time that Storm is in a confrontation. The other person is waxing pontific, and then she just drops the hammer and just fries the crap out. Oh, by the way, did I tell you I'm the god of storms? So good.
I love. There's so many times in this where she's having a conversation with the character and she's just like, oh my god, shut up, please. It's one of the things I love with this, and Ewing has this great grasp of her voice where Storm simultaneously can be so in charge of the situation, but then when things go south, she's just like, "Oh, I was not ready for this." But that doesn't stop her. She's very able to acknowledge, I may have made a mistake, but it's too late now, and I still have a mission to complete.
Yeah, and even halfway through, she's questioning whether or not what she's doing is selfish or righteous, which is great. It's very much the hero's journey, right? She has a vision. She wakes up, should be comfortable in her bed. Her personal life situation in that moment is someplace comfortable that she has to decide to leave in order to go on this quest.
Yeah,
and then it is the trials and tribulations of going somewhere unknown, facing these riddles, and being guided by entities that have greater knowledge and everything going on. It's very similar to the Thor thing. It sounds similar to the detective thing.
Actually, yeah, it's weird that all three of our picks are about people going on these journeys that they're simultaneously to find something, but also about finding themselves.
Yeah, it's deep.
I mean, kind of.
I kind of hope there aren't any psychiatrists watching today analyzing us right now.
Though if there are, what are your rates?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But no, the way this issue ends though is things are probably going to get worse before they get better,
Definitely.
which is very much a me pick.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Magneto is.
I'm not sure what exactly is going on with him, but it's not good.
There's only a panel to give us some kind of information about that, and it does not look good.
Yeah.
What does look good, though, is the wall. There's lots of good stuff to read. It kind of seemed like people either had a ton in their pull and hold or just a couple books in their pull and hold. But, for being a light week, there's a lot of great titles. So be sure to get on down. Also, follow, subscribe. Check us out on social media. Check out our website, pulpcg.com. Leave comments about what you were enjoying this week, and then come back next week and watch our next video. And until then, enjoy all the reading. Thanks for joining.
Let there be light.
There, now we're not staring into the void.
I like that.
It's like my favorite pastime.
It stares back.
It's when it talks back that you really got to be concerned.
Yeah.